Hello and welcome to another violin video. This is the new violin I've been trying out. It's the Sycorax violin from Violorama and it's a very interesting instrument. I'll just get the disclaimers out of the way first. I bought this instrument with my own money. I've not been paid to make this video. I was given a discount on the price of the instrument because I've been doing some minor assistance in the later stages of the development, just giving advice on things. But otherwise this is just an instrument I now own and like a lot. Okay, so this is the Violorama Sycorax violin. It's handmade in England, well, 3D printed, CNC machine and hand finished in England anyway. And as you can see, the main part of the violin is 3D printed in here, and there's wood at the top and on the back, and you can just see in there is a wooden bass bar as well. And more radically, it has, see that? It has a sound post. Now obviously sound posts are not a new thing in violins, they've been in acoustic violins since forever. But to my knowledge at least, they're either non-existent or at least very rare in electric violins. So I think that gives this thing a unique style. It also gives it a very unique sound. So the bridge violin, which I normally use, it's a hollow body design, it's carbon fibre and Kevlar body. It sounds, at the time I bought it 10 years ago, it was certainly the best thing I found. I really liked it and I've been using it ever since. This is utterly different. It's just an open design with a sound post going between the two wooden bits. And it gives it a very woody acoustic feel and a very acoustic sound, which is unusual in electric violins. They normally have a very soft sound. This doesn't. It has quite a bit of bite to it. It's quite light, 580 grams with a battery powered preamp. There you go, there's a preamp in there. Takes 3 CR2 or 3.2 cells. If you prefer a phantom powered version, they can do that for you too, so that would be slightly lighter still. And there's a little phono jack in there with an XLR on the other end. That goes to your mixer and gives you phantom power. A little bit lighter, probably a bit of a lighter cable as well if you care about those things. I've been playing electric so long that the weight of the cable and stuff doesn't really bother me that much. But it is nice. This is light. It's lighter than the bridge. It's slightly heavier than my acoustic. It really feels nice and light and not oppressively dark. The balance on it is good. For reference, the bridge is 625 grams. The acoustic 4-string is about 450, 440. And against this is 580. It took me a little while to get used to having the jack on the side rather than the bridge at the bottom, but that's just habit really. It's a question of what you're used to. The end there, the pegs, they're the Nilling geared pegs. If you haven't discovered geared pegs on violins yet, go and try them out. They're amazing. They just save you so much hassle and effort. You don't need the adjusters at the end. These are all geared like machine heads on a guitar. I actually had them retrofitted onto my bridge. That's how much I like them. But these come as standard on this instrument, which is nice. Peg box is nice and wide. This gives you a lot of room for putting the strings on. One of the problems with a small peg box, normal size peg box, is it's a bit of a squeeze when you're restringing the instrument, and there's quite an angle on, if you look at the bridge, there's quite an angle there at the bottom C string going into the peg box. That's, I've not lost a string yet. No, actually I have lost a C string before now. So I don't know whether that's a contributing factor or not, but yeah, that's not the case here. As you can see, there is loads of room. But near my face, that's where the autofocus works. Loads are in there, nice and easy. I've had the top stained black here. If you look on the Violorama website, most of the pictures have it normal wood. It's a matter of preference. I like it this colour, others may prefer it to be all wood. I like the sort of tantalising bits of wood showing to the back, so I didn't want all of the wood stained black. I think this gives it a little bit of extra style, maybe, I don't know. Again, personal preference. I think you can get the choice. It's a 3D printed neck. A lot of people may balk at the idea of a plastic neck. To be honest, it's nice and smooth, it feels warm, it doesn't really bother me in the slightest. The fingerboard is also 3D printed plastic, but it's a smoother material than the stuff that the main violin is made out of. And again, it doesn't really matter. It's never bothered me. It really hasn't bothered me. I've been playing this thing for 3 weeks now, and never once have I thought, I wish his neck was wooden. I really haven't. It's just fine, nice to play. But people do have their own preferences for neck profiles. So, see what you think. If you're gripping the neck on the back anyway, you're not playing it properly. Anyway, so better players than me might notice the difference and might care about it. Yeah, for me, it's great. It's a violin. It's got this particular one of mine, you'll notice, has a plastic chin rest. That was my choice because I wanted one with a deeper chin rest. It did originally come with a wooden one, but it was a bit shallow for my taste. It's just a violin chin rest. You can put any chin rest you like on there. It's highly up to you. It's not an odd part. So that's the thing. It's got a nice sort of witchy style to it, which I like, which goes in with the Sycorax name, of course, Shakespearean character. I had lots of compliments when taking this out from the looks of it. It's very modern. The 3D print it's plastic and carbon fibre. The 3D printing it just gives it an extra sort of up-to-date styling, I think. It's nice. So how does it sound? Well, it sounds very woody because it's got wood in it and it's got a sound post in it. It's got a lot more bite than most electric violins I've ever played. In comparison, the bridge often sounds dull, certainly a lot softer. And I've started noticing a lot more now when people have been playing electric violins on pieces, how soft they sound compared to an acoustic. And I think this is why a lot of people, particularly in the folk area or other areas, are still playing acoustic violins, because they still have that extra bitey sound that you just don't get. I mean, my acoustic violin's got a bite of a hungry crocodile, so it's quite nice to have something close on an electric as well. Because it's got a sound post and it's wooden, it's necessarily variable. So you might find that yours, if you buy one or you try one, doesn't sound exactly the same as this. That's because woods vary, sound post positions vary. They're easily adjustable. Any luthier can adjust that. In fact, you could do it yourself because there's no mad F holes to try and put your tool into. So you can do that. Tom has rather nicely left the bits of wood flat where the sound post goes so that it can move in and out as you need. Mostly though, it'll come set up nicely, hopefully as you want it. So let's hear some sounds. I'm going to show you with my pedals here. I've got the GT1000 and the SY300 here. So I'm going to give you some examples of the sounds that you can get out of this and how it sounds with those two pedals, just to give you an idea of how I'm using it. So there's a little more handling noise than on the bridge. Doesn't bother me a great deal. You can just put the foot pedal down and it'll stop, or just don't handle it quite so much. Not a big deal. So we go. That's nice. That's just a dry sound on the C string. No effects on it at all. So let's do a quick direct comparison with that on the bridge. So you've heard that. So I probably think, oh yeah, that sounds like a violin. So immediately you can hear, excuse me. So immediately you can hear that sort of slightly brassy sound that you always get off electric violins. It sounds a lot softer. You can really, when you compare the two together, the bridge sounds very, very dull and very, very soft. It's quite shocking actually. Having played this for 10 years now and got really used to its sound, it is quite shocking to go onto the Violorama and hear how bright and cutting it sounds. You could argue that the bridge is a slightly bigger lower end than this one, and I wouldn't deny that. I don't think it detracts from it. It's horses for courses. I mean, different violins have different sounds, same as different electric guitars, different acoustic guitars have different sounds. It's a horses for courses thing. So, a bit of reverb on it, just livens it up a bit, as it always happens with violin. And I usually play with a bit of space echo delay. I really like the space echo delay, just gives it nice. You can hear the handling noise a bit there if you've got the delay in it, it's not a big deal. Try the distortion on it. It can make quite a big noise when you want it to. It's slightly more resistant to feedback than the bridge. I'm going to do a full video on this later on in the year, and you'll see why when I do it. Yeah, it feeds back later than the bridge. It makes a horrible squealing noise when it does feedback, whereas the bridge just tends to come in a bit slower and more easily controllable, a bit lower down. So you do need to avoid it a bit carefully. I mean, obviously I'm using it on headphones here, so there's no feedback with the distortions. You will get feedback if you're using it on a very loud stage or in a small rehearsal room. That's inevitable. It's a violin, it's got a sound burst, it's got an acoustic pickup. Of course it's going to feedback. Even guitars feedback. But generally I found it to be less feedbacky than some of the violins, which is nice. Last thing I'm going to try is the this Y300. This is a preset. I'm using a built-in preset just so you can get the idea of what it is I'm doing. This is the Landauer, how do you pronounce that? Preset. It's quite bright at the top end. As I mentioned in a previous SY300 video, I believe that the SY300 actually does resynthesis rather than pitch tracking. So all the extra high frequencies that you get out of this go into the synth and make it quite bright at the top. So I found when using it with the SY300 you do need to roll it off a little bit. So that's just something to be aware of. To be fairness, if you use that with an acoustic violin, that would also be necessary. And I didn't mention it in my acoustic video when I did the SY300. But yeah, it's become a bit more obvious now what's going on. At the time I just wanted to see if it would work. Just for comparison, I'll plug the bridge in and show you what that does. So yeah, the bridge doesn't trigger quite as many high frequencies. It's a lot less screechy at the top end. Maybe probably not a good word, but it's less slightly painful at the top end at least, just because it doesn't have that bite that the Sycorax does. So other things you will notice, there are no tone controls, no volume controls at the top. This bothers me not one jot. I've never used them on the bridge. In fact, I set them to one thing and leave them there, because when you're playing, it's fiddling up here, you know, you've got a bow in your hand. So I don't need them. Really not interested. If you want them, then well, you're probably out of luck, to be honest. I don't think they're easily retrofittable with that sort of body shape. Doing in the pedals, it's, you know, I'll just get it sounding right in the first place, you know. So the styling is very much sort of personal preference, I suppose. It doesn't have the slick appearance of a manufactured instrument, and it's not sort of all wholly hewn out of single pieces of wood either. It's sort of quite a nice compromise in a way. It has a style all of its own, I think. The wood plus 3D printing is certainly unique. I think it gives it quite a distinctive look. It gives it a very witchy look, all the holes in here, which I imagine are just to save space, save weight rather. But it gives it that witchy look, I think, which makes the Sycorax name doubly appropriate. So in general, I'm very taken with this violin. I've been using it as standard now with helicopter quartets. And on solo albums. In fact, I've even been using it where an acoustic violin would be really called for, and I've been too lazy to plug in some microphones. You just DI this and there, and it sounds pretty near, really. A little bit of EQ and you're there. It's really helpful for that sort of stuff. You just want a quick acoustic sound. Yeah, this is your instrument. It's nice. It's not going to totally replace the bridge, I don't think, in my repertoire. I'm certainly not going to get rid of it. As guitarists are fond of saying, every guitar has a song in it, and every violin has its own unique sound and its own use. A lot of the playing I do is a lot of slow atmospheric, and the bridge works really well for slow atmospheric stuff because it's quite a soft, as I said before, sound. This is a nice acoustic sound. It gives it some bite. It cuts over an electric guitar quite well in helicopter quartet, so it's actually very useful in that combination. Yeah, there's a place for both, I think. There's a place for the more acoustic sound of this with the convenience of an electric, and the electric sort of softer sound of the bridge and others. I find when I've been mixing particular helicopter quartet, I'm having to put things excited at the top end, sometimes, not always, but just now and again, just to pull the bridge out of the mix against the wall of Mike's distorted guitars. This doesn't need it, obviously. It's got enough interest on there on its own. So that's going to be useful in itself. It's going to save me time mixing, and that's always a good thing, as well, you know, as well as the practical things of just having something that sounds nice. So the price, if you look on the website, for this model here, that's £1,100. It does. There are two models of this actually. This is the Model 1, where the sound post goes all the way down between the two bits of wood. There is a Model 2, a slightly cheaper version, which has a, I think it's part of the 3D printed thing at the back, and the sound post only goes down that far. It doesn't have quite the woody sound that this does, but it might be enough for you if you can't quite go for the full priced one like this, or a slightly duller sound is okay for you if you don't need the total contrast between these two instruments that I have here. The link is in the description. I get no kickbacks from if you use that link. I'm just purely telling you that's where you can find it. You know, I've met with Tom a few times, nice guy, but I have no financial interest in this instrument whatsoever. I'm just an impressed player. So there it is, the Violorama Sycorax electric violin. Thank you for watching. See you next time.